Hi friends. Please subscribe and help me reach my first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this story. Let us go. Ethan sat at the patio table, slicing into a ribeye he'd just pulled off the grill. The Cabernet in his glass caught the last few rays of the dying California sun, casting a deep crimson shadow on the tablecloth. It was a standard Tuesday evening in Orange County, nothing out of the ordinary. He'd survived a brutal day of meetings in Irvine, put out a few fires with the East Coast team, and now, all he wanted was to decompress. Olivia sat across from him, listlessly pushing her arugula around the plate with a fork. Every now and then she'd take a sip of wine, but the tension radiating off her was palpable. "You've been quiet all day," he noted, shooting her an appraising look. "Just drained," she replied, her tone flat. Ethan shrugged, letting it slide. Lately, she'd been like this constantly, distracted, jumpy. Probably stress from the office or drama with her friends. "Hey, I need you to swing by the bank tomorrow," he added, carving another piece of steak. "I did not get a chance to authorize that wire transfer for the contractor, and I need you to handle the deposit from our joint account while you're there." Olivia froze for a second, then slowly set her fork down. "I am not going to the bank." Her voice sounded strange, steady, but laced with a hidden frequency of high-tension wire. Ethan looked up, knife hovering mid-air. "Why not?" "Because." She traced the rim of her wine glass with a manicured finger. "I am not your property, Ethan. And I am done taking orders from you." Silence hung heavy over the patio. Ethan blinked, his brain trying to parse the sentence. He felt a muscle under his eye twitch involuntarily. "Excuse me? Are you feeling okay?" "I said, I am not your property," she repeated, her voice rising a decibel, locking eyes with him now. He slowly set down his knife and fork, never breaking eye contact. "What are you talking about, Olivia? Did I do something to piss you off?" She stood up abruptly, grabbed her glass, and walked over to the sliding glass door, staring out at the yard. "You're always telling me what to do. Where to drive. What bills to pay. You're just used to me acting like a good little assistant without a second thought. Those are just household logistics," he frowned, leaning back. "Olivia, we've always operated like this. We've been married over 7 years. Sometimes you handle things. Sometimes I handle things. It's called marriage and division of labor." She let out a dry, humorless chuckle. "That's what you think. I think you're just using me." The expression on her face was starting to grate on him. That tone, that look, it was not the woman he'd built a life with. It was a stranger. "Olivia," he sighed, keeping his voice measured. "Quit beating around the bush. Tell me what is actually going on." She took another sip of wine, then slowly set the glass on the windowsill and turned to face him. "I transferred the funds." Ethan did not process the words immediately. "What? Which funds?" "The money. From our joint savings," she shrugged, as if discussing the weather. "A chunk of our assets is now in my personal account." He stood up slowly, the chair legs scraping against the patio stone. You drained our savings?" "No, honey. I took what is legally mine. Community property." His heart skipped a beat before hammering against his ribs. His temples throbbed, and every word she spoke echoed in his skull. He could not wrap his head around it. Why do this? And where was this aggression coming from? Ethan's eyes darted to the dresser valet in the corner of the living room, visible through the glass doors. That was where he always kept his wallet, his keys to the Tesla, and the Tag Heuer he wore for client meetings. He could not remember the last time he'd put them on, but something in his gut told him to check. He walked in, yanked the drawer open. Empty. His gaze snapped to the shelf in the entryway where his Toomey Weekender bag usually sat. Gone. Adrenaline spiked in his blood. He marched out of the kitchen and down the hall to the master bedroom. The closet door was shut tight. He threw it open and froze. Half the rack was bare. Several of his custom suits were missing. "What the hell, Olivia? What is happening?" he shouted, a cold realization clawing its way up his throat. He lunged for the nightstand, grabbed his iPhone, and Face ID'd into the Chase app. When he saw the balance, or rather the lack of one, his chest tightened as if a vice had clamped down on it. "Are you out of your damn mind?" He gripped the phone tight, his breathing ragged. Olivia just watched him, unblinking, leaning against the doorframe. "What is your game plan here? How long have you been doing this?" He looked up at her, his eyes filled with cold fury. "A few months," she admitted without a shred of hesitation. Ethan took a deep breath, clenching his jaw so hard his teeth ached. Everything he wanted to scream got stuck in his throat. "So what now? Why are you doing this?" His voice came out raspy. She walked up to him, tilting her head defiantly. "I do not owe you an explanation. Like I said, I do not belong to you. I'm going to manage my own life now." With that, she turned on her heel and walked into the guest room, slamming the door. Ethan stood there, phone crushed in his hand, completely blindsided. He could not grasp what just happened, or what point she was trying to prove. 3 days passed since the blowout, but the silence did not bring any relief. On the contrary, something cold and hard was calcifying inside him. He did not know what to call this feeling, but it certainly was not just disappointment. That first night after her confession, he did not sleep a wink. Her words, her tone, that icy confidence, it all played on a loop in his head. She had planned this way in advance. Calculated every step. Figured out how to cash out of their marriage without looking back. What was he to her? A bankroll? A safety net? Ethan sat in the leather armchair in the living room, nursing a glass of bourbon, the ice long since melted. The house was dead silent. The master bedroom was empty. Olivia had taken off, citing some urgent errands. And now that she had openly declared her independence, he decided to give her exactly what she wanted. The next morning, he did not make the coffee. He did not pay the internet bill. He did not remind her about her dermatologist appointment. He did not buy that expensive organic yogurt she loved, the one that always magically appeared in the fridge. He stopped doing everything, no small favors, no gestures of care. If she wanted freedom, Ethan decided, she was going to get the full experience. At first, Olivia did not seem to notice the shift. She got up, showered, drank the mediocre Keurig coffee she had to make herself, and went to work. She seemed completely indifferent to the fact that Ethan was now operating like a ghost in his own house. But a few days later, he started noticing a shift in her routine. Olivia began hitting the town more frequently in the evenings. Sometimes she declaimed she was grabbing drinks with the girls. Other times, she did not offer an explanation at all, simply grabbing her keys and walking out the door without a word. In the past, she'd never stay out past 11, but now she was not rolling into the driveway until the early hours of the morning. One night, he woke up when she stumbled in at 3 a.m. She flipped on the hallway lights, blindingly bright, and started digging through her purse, making no effort to be quiet. When she finally came into the bedroom, the scent of alcohol on her was overpowering. Her movements were loose, uncoordinated, and her heels clacked against the hardwood floor in a chaotic, stumbling rhythm. Ethan lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to her giggle softly to herself, as if replaying a private joke in her head. What was so funny at 3 in the morning? Or maybe she was remembering how someone else had entertained her. The next morning, he found her silk blouse in the bathroom hamper. It reeked of a cologne that definitely was not his. Ethan intentionally did not ask a single thing. He did not cause a scene. He just watched. At first, he tried to rationalize the whole thing. Maybe she really was blowing off steam with her friends. Maybe she was going through some kind of midlife crisis or stress she did not want to unpack with him. But then came the subtle details that were impossible to ignore. One evening, while he was walking into the kitchen to grab a water, her iPhone buzzed on the granite island. Olivia had left it there while she was touching up her mascara in the hallway mirror. The screen lit up with a preview, "Meet at the usual spot." The number was unsaved. No contact name. He did not swipe to read more. He did not have to. The doubt evaporated. She was seeing someone. As the days went by, Olivia drifted further and further away, and Ethan realized his suspicions were slowly cementing into a crystal-clear picture. Her eyes had a new shine to them. There was a spark, but not the kind that used to light up when she looked at him. She was different, wired, almost. It was as if she was running on an energy source located far outside the walls of their home. And it certainly was not coming from him. He decided not to rush. He would not give her a reason to blow up, nor a chance to spin a sob story. Ethan decided he would just wait and see exactly how far she was willing to push this and where it would end. Then, he noticed her wedding ring was missing from her finger. Olivia always wore it, a massive rock she used to flash proudly, only taking it off to shower or sleep. Now, her finger was bare. In the last few days, Olivia seemed to practically vanish. She came home late, often past midnight, and barely spoke 2 words to Ethan. Her excuses became clipped and vague: errands, got stuck at the office, hanging out with the girls. But Ethan knew it was all garbage. He catalogued the evidence. A new perfume he did not recognize, something heavier, muskier. Muddy footprints on the passenger side floor mat of her Range Rover, too big to be hers. Her eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep, yet they held that strange manic glint of someone living a double life. Inside he was boiling, but he did not jump the gun. He observed, giving her all the rope she needed to hang herself. Then came the night Olivia dropped the line again: "Do not wait up, I'm grabbing dinner with Ashley." Ethan nodded, watching her leave. The second the front door clicked shut, he picked up his phone and opened the Find My app. They shared locations, a safety feature they set up years ago and never turned off. She was not at a restaurant. She was not at Ashley's condo in Newport. She was at a hotel. Ethan stared at the screen, feeling a cold calm wash over him, displacing the anger. The rage receded, leaving behind a pure, calculated clarity. He did not call her. He did not text. He just watched the little blue dot on the map. She was there for 40 minutes. Then an hour. Then an hour and a half. She had not just dropped something off. She was staying. For a split second, a thought flashed through his mind: drive down there right now. Kick down the door. Drag her and her lover out, beat the lies out of them. Catch them in the act and burn the whole thing to the ground. But he reconsidered. He wanted to know how long she could keep the charade going and where this train wreck of a marriage was actually heading. Ethan did not sleep that night. He lay in the dark, listening to the expensive analog clock on the wall tick away the seconds, counting down to the moment Olivia would return from her dinner with a friend. At 2:47 a.m., he heard the deadbolt slide. She'd been gone almost 5 hours. Ethan closed his eyes, feigning sleep. He heard her creep in, trying to be stealthy. She kicked off her heels, padded into the bathroom. He caught the scent of stale wine and something else, a faint lingering trace of menace aftershave. She stood under the shower for nearly 30 minutes. When she finally slipped back into the bedroom and climbed into bed, she let out a long exhale, as if dropping a heavy load. Ethan lay motionless. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She snatched it up immediately. In the dark, he heard the soft tap-tap-tap of a text being typed. And then a short, stifled giggle. Laughter after a 5-hour dinner. Ethan knew everything he needed to know. The next morning, Ethan got out of bed later than usual. He did not rush to leave the bedroom. Instead, he sat on the edge of the mattress, watching the California sun slice through the blackout curtains. His mind was sharp, frigid, as if the sleepless night had granted him a new level of awareness. He had no more questions. He had the answers. When he went down to the kitchen, Olivia was already sitting at the island, lazily sipping coffee. She looked relaxed, as if nothing had happened. But Ethan saw her differently now. In every movement, in every glance, he saw the arrogance of someone who thinks they are in total control. He walked to the sink, splashed ice-cold water on his face. Pretended to just be waking up. Then, grabbing his phone, he walked back to the island and sat opposite her. "Morning," he said, his tone neutral. "Morning," she replied, just as breezy. Ethan reached for her phone, which was sitting face up on the marble countertop, and tapped the screen to see the notifications. He had not planned to touch it, but the screen lit up with a new message just as he reached for the sugar. He did not understand why it caught his eye until he saw the sender, Jake. The message preview read, "Last night was mind-blowing. I see a not stop thinking about you." He did not react immediately. He just stared. Read the words again. And again. Then he looked up at Olivia. Suddenly, it clicked for her. She realized he was looking at her screen. Her eyes flared with panic, and before he could say a word, she snatched the phone out of his hand. "Are you happy with him?" Ethan asked calmly. She did not answer right away. It was that moment of absolute exposure, the deer in the headlights. The first crack in her perfect confidence. What? Her voice was quieter than usual, but she tried to recover quickly. I am asking you, are you happy with him? Did you enjoy yourself last night? He repeated, his voice still steady, but his gaze pinning her to the chair. Olivia set the phone down, face down this time. Her shoulders tensed, but her face remained a mask. What are you talking about, Ethan? There was a note of irritation in her voice, but he knew it was just a defense mechanism. He slowly pointed a finger at her phone, letting her know he had read the message loud and clear. Olivia looked down. She was silent for just a moment. He saw the calculation behind her eyes, the gears turning as she weighed her exit strategy. It's just. She started to spin a lie, but then she paused. She shrugged slightly, let out a scoff, and leaned back in her chair. Fine. No sense in lying. Ethan felt something snap inside him. He had expected resistance, a desperate attempt to justify herself, maybe even tears. But the ease with which she admitted the truth was cold, scorching. I deserve to be happy, she continued, tilting her head to the side, her voice flat, almost mechanical. And you, Ethan, you just not give that to me. I'm tired of living with you, and I want my freedom. He did not say a word. He just kept looking at her, feeling a slow burning rage bubbling up in his gut. Not because of the words themselves, but because of the absolute indifference with which she delivered them. How long has this been going on? His voice was steady, stripped of all emotion. Olivia crossed her arms over her chest, not breaking eye contact. Does it really matter at this point? Ethan nodded, as if conceding the point, then slowly stood up. He walked over to the espresso machine, refilled his mug, and returned to the island. He did not take his eyes off Olivia, studying her like a specimen he was seeing for the first time. Who is this Jake? He asked calmly. She smirked. You already know, she said playfully, tilting her chin up and looking at him with a faint, mocking smile. Ethan took a sip of coffee and fell silent for a moment. The scenes of the last few weeks replayed in his mind, the late nights, the scent of foreign cologne, the secret of texting. He recalled her words from the other day, I am not your property, spoken with that icy detachment. Back then, he had not realized how much those words foreshadowed her next move. Now the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Her distancing, her new life, her decision to split their finances, preparing her exit strategy while hiding the truth until the very last second. Have you been seeing him for a while? He looked straight into her eyes. Olivia shrugged. Everything is relative, she answered ambiguously. Ethan's expression did not change. He silently brought the cup to his lips. Olivia watched him, waiting for a reaction. Maybe a scream. Maybe threats. But he simply set the mug down on the granite counter and smiled. What? She asked, frowning slightly. Her fingers nervously tightened around her own cup, as if she sensed a threat in his voice for the first time. Nothing, he replied calmly. I'm just wondering how you're going to wiggle your way out of this one. Olivia's frown deepened. Wiggle out of what? Out of this, Ethan gestured to the house, the kitchen, the years they had built together. You did not think I was just going to accept this quietly, did you? She exhaled, pushing her chair back. Ethan, let us not be dramatic, she said with a light scoff, crossing her arms again. We adults. You did not expect me to sit here and apologize, did you? I do not need you to apologize, he took another sip of coffee. You just do not understand where this leads. Olivia sighed again, looking down. Ethan, what can you possibly do to me? I've thought this all through. I'm not afraid of you. Ethan smiled, but the look in his eyes was devoid of warmth. You're making a big mistake thinking that, Olivia, Ethan said, and walked away toward his home office. He could hear Olivia's light footsteps behind the closed door. She probably did not suspect a thing yet. All morning she'd been acting as if nothing had changed since their kitchen conversation. As if he would just swallow the infidelity and continue playing the role of the husband she could dupe. But he knew her illusion was about to shatter. Ethan sat in his leather office chair, phone in hand. He had just authorized the final transfer. Their joint checking account was now zeroed out. He closed the banking app and leaned back, taking a deep breath. This was not anger, and it was not an impulse decision. It was a calculated liquidation. He walked out into the hallway, jingling her car keys in his hand. Olivia was standing by the mirror in the entryway, fixing her hair. She turned around when she saw his reflection. "Ethan, are you going somewhere?" she asked, a slight furrow in her brow. Ethan stepped closer, picked up her designer handbag from the console table, and pulled out her wallet. He fished out the platinum card they used for all shared expenses, pulled a pair of scissors from his pocket, and deliberately cut the chip in half. He tossed the pieces carelessly onto the table. "You do not have access to our money anymore," he said in a level voice. Olivia scowled. "What are you doing?" "Exactly what you wanted," he looked at her coldly. "You wanted independence? Now you have it. Oh, and by the way," Ethan tilted his head, smiling, "I canceled that transfer you tried to wire to your personal account. So, you really have nothing right now. The account is closed, auto payments are disabled. This is your chance to prove just how independent you really are." She blinked, as if her brain refused to process the meaning of his words. "Ethan, you see not be serious?" He chuckled. "Dead serious. You said yourself that I do not make you happy. That means you do not need any of this." Olivia opened her mouth, then snapped it shut. Indignation flared in her eyes. "Are you trying to punish me?" Her voice turned sharp. "No," Ethan dropped the keys to her Range Rover into the drawer of the hallway table. "I just stopped being the guy who owes you anything. As of right now, you are free." She stepped forward, her hands balling into fists. "You see not just." Her voice trembled, and he could see the fear creeping into her eyes. "I already did." "You planned this very poorly," he interrupted her, grinning broadly. She stared at him, breathing heavily, but he could see it was not just fear anymore. It was panic. The world she had so carefully constructed was starting to collapse. But he was not finished yet. Ethan silently picked up her phone and dialed the number. "What are you doing?" Her voice wavered. He did not answer. He just offered a thin smile and waited until the line picked up. "Jake? Hey. Can you swing by? I've got a surprise for you. I think Olivia will be thrilled to see you." He paused for effect. "By the way, let me introduce myself. I am her husband, Ethan. I figure you two do not have anything to hide anymore. So, I'll see you at the house." Olivia went pale. "Have you lost your mind?" She stepped closer, trying to snatch the phone from him, but he sidestepped her easily. "You wanted to be with him, right?" His voice was almost friendly, terrifyingly casual. "Well, he's on his way to pick you up." She looked flustered, but quickly tried to regain her composure. "He should not come here," her voice hardened. "Why not?" Ethan tilted his head. "You chose him. Would not he be happy to see you?" She remained silent, no longer hiding the sheer panic in her eyes. It took less than 30 minutes for the doorbell to ring. Ethan walked leisurely to the door and pulled it open. Jake stood on the porch. He looked completely bewildered. "Ethan?" he started, but Ethan stepped aside, giving him a clear view of Olivia standing in the middle of the living room with her arms crossed and lips pressed into a thin line. "Come on in," Ethan said with a smirk. "You here to collect her, right?" Jake froze. He looked at Olivia, then back at Ethan. Something in his gaze shifted instantly. "Listen," he began, but Olivia cut him off. "Ethan, we need to talk about this privately." Her voice was tight, strung out like a violin wire. "What for?" Ethan took a step forward. "Everything has already been said. You made your choice. Now I'm just helping you execute it." Olivia clenched her jaw. Jake shifted awkwardly from one foot to the other. "Maybe we should discuss this somewhere else," he mumbled. "No, right here is perfect," Ethan said, crossing his arms over his chest. "Actually, you guys should probably get going right now." Olivia shifted her gaze to Jake. There was a flicker of hope in her eyes. But Jake, it seemed, was looking at her differently for the first time. "Look, Olivia. I thought you were going to handle this yourself." He scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. "I do not understand, Jake. What are you trying to say?" Her voice turned sharp. "I'm not ready. I did not expect." He shot a glance at Ethan. "That it would go down like this. Like this. Her eyes widened. It's your choice. Jake raised his hands in surrender. But I see I not just take you in. That is definitely not what we talked about. Ethan chuckled. And there goes your fairy tale, Ethan said, grinning as he watched the realization wash over Olivia's face. She was completely alone. Olivia stood motionless. Her face had drained of all color. Jake, what is wrong with you? Her voice dropped to a whisper. But he was already stepping back toward the door. I'm really sorry, he said, avoiding her eyes. Then he looked at Ethan and gave a curt nod. Good luck. The door slammed shut. The silence in the room became almost physical. Olivia slowly turned to Ethan, her lip trembling. You. Her voice cracked. Me? Ethan folded his arms. I just gave you exactly what you asked for. She slowly sank onto a chair, her shoulders slumping. Ethan, please. Her voice was barely audible. But he was not listening anymore. Ethan stood by the open front door, leaning against the jamb, watching Olivia pace nervously around the foyer. Her movements were chaotic, jerky, as if she were trying to gather her scattered thoughts, refusing to believe what was happening. Ethan, you see, not just kick me out. Her voice shook with a cocktail of indignation and panic. He did not answer immediately. Calmly, he grabbed the suitcase that was already waiting by the wall and set it down right next to the threshold. You do not live here anymore. As of today, you are officially independent, he said in a flat, emotionless voice. Olivia froze. A look of dawning reality crossed her face. Up until this second, she seemed to think she still had some measure of control. This is cruel, Ethan, she tried appealing to his conscience. I get that you're angry, but to do this. He tilted his head slightly, assessing her. No, he answered coldly. This is just me respecting your choices. She opened her mouth to argue, then thought better of it. Her eyes flashed with anger, then uncertainty. She took a step forward, as if hoping to find a way to soften the blow, to regain some leverage. Do you really want to get rid of me like this? Ethan chuckled, then leaned in closer and spoke quietly. Jake will probably be happy to let you crash with him, if you can catch him. Olivia went white. She slowly turned toward the door, then met his gaze one last time. You are a complete monster, she whispered. Ethan did not reply. He simply held the door open and gestured toward the driveway. His silence was louder than anything he could have said. She stood there, seemingly hoping he would crack. But he did not. Olivia let out a sharp exhale, grabbed the handle of her suitcase, and crossed the threshold. Ethan closed the door behind her, leaving no room for further discussion. The house settled into silence. He exhaled slowly, running a hand down his face. Instead of the emptiness he expected, he felt relief. Without hesitation, he grabbed his jacket and headed out. The bar was semi-empty when he walked in. Warm recessed lighting softened the room, low conversations hummed around him, and quiet jazz filled the background. Ethan took a seat at the bar and signaled the bartender. Whiskey. Neat, he said briefly. The bartender nodded, poured the amber liquid into a heavy crystal glass, and slid it across the mahogany. Ethan picked it up, slowly swirling it, watching the light refract through the glass. For the first time in a long time, he felt no anger, no pain, no disappointment. Just lightness. He took the first sip, letting the sharp warmth spread through his chest. Then he looked up, caught the bartender's eye, and unexpectedly smiled. People around him were laughing. Someone was debating the Lakers game, someone else was telling a joke. He just listened, letting this new atmosphere soak into him. With every passing moment, Ethan realized it more clearly. He was free again. This night did not just mark the end of a chapter in his life. It was the beginning of a new one. And he was ready for it. And that concludes our story today. Thank you for watching to the end. If you liked it, please give it a like and leave a comment. Also, we are always happy to discuss any comments you may have. See you in the next video.